Hi team, Coach Alexa here. The warmer weather is coming back again, isn't it? As we're just looking at the beginning of July now, at the end of this week. So I've done a video before, which you'll find if you scroll back through my YouTube channel, about tips on how to keep yourself cool when you're out running. So things from staying hydrated through to the time of day that you might do your run at. I always feel it's helpful though for people to understand why it's important, not just what to do, but why it's important to do things like that. So in this video, I'm going to cover some of the reasons why running in warmer weather is going to be harder and what our body's up to behind the scenes. So the first thing to say is that our body works really, really hard to maintain a steady core body temperature. So the temperature at which all of our internal organs and our brain function is really quite a narrow range. So if you've ever had the misfortune of having a fever and a high temperature, you know how odd that makes you feel. Small children and high temperatures, most parents know, is a little bit of a danger area. And even quite a small drop in core body temperature can start to cause symptoms of hypothermia. So our body will try its absolute best to keep us in quite this sort of narrow operating zone we have in terms of core body temperature requirement. And when it's warm, our body is using quite a lot of energy and effort to keep us in that correct and safe temperature zone. So as with anything in life, if we're spending more effort on one system in our body, we're going to have a little bit less energy for other stuff like the muscles for running. The other thing to bear in mind is the mechanism with which we keep ourselves cool. So humans, we're mostly hairless creatures, and our primary method of cooling is through the evaporation of the sweat from our skin. So we've got loads of little sort of sweat glands all over our skin. They start leaking a bit, basically. Sweat starts coming out of them. Sweat is mostly water, and it cools using the evaporation of that water from our skin to keep us cool. So we are actually pretty good at keeping ourselves cool compared to a lot of other animals. Dogs, for example, just with panting and a little bit of heat loss through their pores, much less efficient at keeping themselves cool, so much more important that they don't get overheated and they're wearing a furry coat all the time. But what it means is that we actually use quite a lot of water as part of that process to keep our core body temperature regulated, particularly when we're running. So our muscles, when we run, produce a lot of excess heat. They're relatively inefficient in a sense. So in the mechanism of producing movement when we run or do any sport, they also produce a lot of excess heat. So our body's trying to dump that heat as well as the heat that you may be getting from the sun or the air temperature when you're outside. So a lot of water is used and lost through our sweat in order to keep ourselves cool. So you can top that up with water as you're going, but that's another system, that cooling system that your body is trying to run, which is going to take more energy away from running. And also even small levels of dehydration due to the amount you're having to sweat to keep yourself cool can start to cause issues with your performance, and then more serious issues if you get more seriously dehydrated. So how does those kind of two things get influenced by the weather conditions? So you may have just experienced it yourself if you're out on a day that's maybe, say for example, 28 degrees Celsius, but there's a little bit of a breeze. It will feel cooler because that breeze will help evaporate that sweat off our skin, increase the cooling effect of our sweating. So for a 28-degree day with a nice breeze, we'll probably feel a little bit cooler than that air temperature might suggest. Things will feel a little bit easier. If, however, it's a 28-degree day, but it's quite muggy, quite humid, and that is because there's a lot of moisture already in the air, that's going to mean that our sweat is less good at evaporating. We're not going to be able to dump as much of our body temperature through our sweat because it's less efficient in muggy weather. So for a 28-degree day when it's muggy and humid, it's going to feel hotter and more effort and more hard work. So the biggest thing is take it easy in hotter days. You're going to get the same training effect from the same effort level, which is going to be at a lower pace for any different session that you're doing. And as I say, have a go through my YouTube channel and you'll see loads of great tips in a previous video about other practical things you can do to keep yourself cool. Hope that's helpful.